Substitution is going to be another method we're going to use to solve these system of equations. We did elimination before, and now we're going to do substitution. Substitution has a pretty specific type of equation that you're going to want to see in order to use it. Otherwise, elimination is probably the better way. But if you have an equation that is x equals something or y equals something, substitution works really well. And you can start off with x equals something or y equals something, kind of like this example right here, y equals, or you can get it to be that way. And some of the equations are going to be a lot easier to get that way than others, just because when you divide some of the coefficients, they'll end up being fractions, which are going to be a little bit tougher to work with. So I'm going to look at this example right now and kind of show you what I'm talking about. So in this example, we don't have anything that says x equals or y equals, but it really won't be hard to make that work. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to take everything here and I'm just going to divide it by 2, because if I just divide everything by the same thing, then it's still going to be the same equation. The x and the y will still be the same. So I'm just going to divide everything by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1, so that's just going to be x. 2 divided by 2 is 1, so that's just going to be y. And then my 6 is actually going to change to 3. This equation is really easy to change it to x equals or y equals. In order to do that, what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to subtract y from this side and subtract y from this side. So if I do minus y and minus y, now if you look at my equation, it is now x equals 3 minus y, or 3 minus 1y if you want it there. Once you have one of your equations to say either x equals or y equals, then we can actually start with the substitution. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down to this bottom equation right here, and I am going to put this right here in for x, this whole thing. So I'm going to put this 1 here because it's really negative 1x, and I'm going to do negative 1, 3 minus 1y, plus 2y equals 12. Now I'm going to have to simplify this down, so I just end up having y equals something. So this would be distributive property. Negative 1 times 3 is negative 3. Negative 1 times negative 1 would just be positive 1. So it's negative 3 plus 1y plus 2y equals 12. Now let me combine like terms. If I combine like terms, 1y and 2y would just be 3y. So I'll just make that 3y plus 3y equals 12. Now I'll solve for y, so I'll have to get rid of this minus 3. So I will add 3 to this side and add 3 to this side. So this will get rid of this here, and then 12 plus 3 is 15. So now my equation is 3y equals 15. Y is going to be 5. Y would equal 5. So now to find x, and I'll put my coordinate on here, all I have to do is go back to any equation that I have on this whole thing and put 5 in for y. And this is kind of like what we did at the end of all the elimination ones, but this is also the last step for the substitution. So I'm going to put 5 in here, and I'll choose this one right here. This is one of the simplest ones we have here. So I'm going to rewrite this x equals 3 minus 1 times 5, because I'm putting 5 in for y. So if I simplify this down, it's now x equals 3 minus, and 1 times 5 is 5, and then 3 minus 5 is negative 2. So x is negative 2. So these two lines that I started off with will cross at negative 2, 5. And I could put these numbers in for any of the equations I have here, and if I'm right, they should fit into every one. Now I'm going to look at the same problem here, except for I'm going to do it a little differently. I'm going to start down here, and I'm going to get this to be x equals, like in here I got y equal, or I did x equals to start with. I think when I look at this, I'm going to also do x equals again, but I'm going to do this with the bottom one, just to show you how flexible you can be. So I just want this to be x. So what I think I'm going to do is I will multiply, because this is basically negative 1x, I will multiply by negative 1 throughout this whole thing. So negative 1 times negative 1 is just going to be positive x. Negative 1 times 2 would be negative 2y. And then times this 12 by negative 1 would be negative 12. So then I need to get x to be just by itself, x equals, so I'll put this on this side. So that's going to be plus 2y, cancels out. So now I just have x equals, I'll just write it 2y minus 12 would be fine. That's the same thing as this right here. So now I'm going to go to one of my equations and I'm going to put in 2y minus 12 for x. And we'll just do the top one here. How about? So I'll do 2 parentheses, and here's where I'm going to put what x equals. X equals 2y minus 12 plus 2y equals 6. So this would be distributive property, which would leave me with 4y. 2 times 12 would be 24, and it's minus, plus 2y equals 6. Okay, let's combine terms together here. I've got 2 and I've got 4, which would be 6y. So I'll just replace this with 6y. I will get this to be on the other side by doing plus 24 plus 24. So now I've got 30. That cancels. So now I've got 6y equals 30. And then if I do 6 times, this would have to be 5 equals 30. So I've got x, I've got y. Y is 5. Just like we found on this other one. And then I would go in and do the same thing. I would pick one of the equations, I would put 5 in for y, and it would still come out to be the negative 2 that we got on the other one.